It's 1:08. Call the meeting to order. I understand we have a quorum today. Robert Clemens, present. Mr. Nemick.
Donald Nemick, present.
Dr. White.
Francis White, present.
Ms. Pearson.
Mr.
I believe
Clemens,
Ms. Pearson is not here today.
yes, sir. That's
Thompson.
correct.
Rose Thompson, present.
Okay. You're gonna have to get the screen up for me, Becky. I don't have a. We have any public comments?
No, sir, we did not have
Okay.
public comments come in. And can you see my screen okay?
I can see public comments. You'll just have to move me on.
Okay.
So I'll have to go on today. So. Review and approval of minutes. Again, I don't have a copy of those minutes here. So Becky, can you, what do you have the annual board meeting? Oh.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Clemens. So we had two sets of minutes to approve, that of the annual board meeting of June 15th, and then the called board meeting of June 22nd, in which the financial amendment and the purchase of real property for Fort Worth items were discussed during those two meetings.
Do we have any questions about these meetings, or if not, do I have a motion that we approve both sets of meetings?
Rose Thompson. I move that the minutes for the meeting held on June 15th and June 22nd be approved as written.
Francis White, I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Vote, Mr. Nemick.
I vote in favor, yes.
Dr. White.
Francis White, yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Rose Thompson, yes.
Robert Clemens, yes. The minutes are approved as presented. I believe I received a note from someone that the first agenda item will be rescheduled for the September meeting.
Yes, that's correct.
Investment. Julie Porter, the front porch marketing.
Yes.
Okay. And the next item is the superintendent's report on current district operations and programs.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Again, we certainly are revving back up for the 23-24 school year. And this is the 25th year for RMA. Now, Ms. Thompson, I need you to confirm that 1998, correct? Ms. Thompson?
Yes, I think that's correct, sir.
All right. So so we're getting ready to really kick off, and I've challenged Carrie and the entire central office with helping us celebrate 25 years of operations and serving students across the state of Texas. So you'll hear a lot about that throughout this year. Board members, you will be receiving some things to commemorate that. 25 years is a pretty long time to have been in operations. And so we're excited about this school year. With that being said, we will be kicking off our 2023 convocation in Houston, Texas. Most of the events will be at the campus this year. We're actually going to be having all of our sessions at the Houston campus, and all of our teachers and salaried staff will be coming to to Houston, and that will be August 7th through the 11th. We have some great things highlighted and taking place there for our staff. And I think Dr. Givens is trying to incorporate a little karaoke and event in the evening hours. So we're trying to really make it a great event and experience for those that are returning to us, as well as those that will be joining us newly to the organization. Other than that, I'm glad to announce that we will be maintaining our teacher retention bonuses for this upcoming year, $6,000 for teachers and $4,000 for all other staff members that return to us to be paid out in 2 installments. And then we will also continue this year with our ESSER funds, and all these are paid out of the ESSERs. We'll also be offering the $3,000 sign-on bonus for new teachers to the district that have never worked for RMA. They would be eligible for the $3,000 sign-on bonus for teachers. So we're excited about that. Hopefully that will entice people to come to RMA and have that career experience with us. Again, we want to remind the board that the Texas Charter School State Conference is coming up in Austin, Texas, and that will be September 25th through the 27th. So that's a great opportunity for board members to get their governance hours. And so if you don't like the tediousness of having to do it online through the CSS platform or having to stand up some other trainings in order to get those hours, we want to encourage all board members to participate and join us in Austin, and we're also planning to have a board meeting in Austin during that week as well. And we'll talk about that here shortly, about the dates of that board meeting. Again, as you can see, we stood up summer school, and there's information on the enrollment. We have 304 students that are participating in the summer school program this year, and there's the breakdown by each campus. Any questions so far? All right. Then the district's enrollment is currently, we're at 1,305 with 141 more students than we were this time last year. That's just the summer enrollment and what we have secured. And so 11,111 students rolled over from the 22-23 school year. We have 55 students that are currently completing applications in the SOS system. And then we have 139 students that are in pre-enrollment awaiting a start date. One of the things that we're exploring this year is some of the charter schools throughout the state utilize some additional services, contracted services, to help get students to the door. Basically, they vet them, reach out to the kids, get them to fill out the enrollment paperwork, and then once they're ready, they would say, hey, RMA, this student is ready. They also take care of all of the the zip code type advertisements and things like that. And so we're exploring some ways to continue to try and get our enrollment up to over that 2,000 mark. And so I will be having some conversations with the board as we move forward on what that potentially could look like. As far as financial stability goes, the federal funding sources of ESSER and all of the federal funds, they have an impact on the district's financial stability, in that they have carried a burden of the load for us over the past 2 or 3 years. ESSER has been a tremendous help. It goes away after this school year, and so we're rolling in as much as we possibly can, such as the retention bonuses, as much of the academic things that we as much as we possibly could. And so, and Tammy will talk more about it. You'll see that the administrative ratio cost is going to be a little bit lower this year, but some of that has an impact from what we've been able to roll over into ESSER and some other things. But I'll leave that to Tammy to touch on in her financial report. And so, as you can see, those are the remaining balances that we have from ESSER Title 1 and entitled to and all of the federal funds that we have there as far as Idea B for special ed. And then if you scroll down some more, the ESSER funds are down there as well, the remaining balances that we have and what we've spent up to date. Are there any questions about the federal funds? All right. Then, as you can see, here we have our vacant positions as of July 18th for the district. Again, you know, we're in hiring season. And so as you can see there, the vacant positions by campus at the beginning of the school year and as we went through the end. And so if you look at that bottom line of the vacant position chart, the last row, excuse me, it shows that Killeen is currently 4 vacancies, Odessa 3, Lubbock 2, Houston 1, Fort Worth 2, Corpus Christi 2, and all the other campuses, Amarillo, Pasadena, and Midland at 1, with central office having 3 vacancies. And so we're working diligently to fill those. We did lose Mr. Moreno, who was the principal of Odessa. The Odessa campus, Mr. Moreno did take an associate principal position in Ector County ISD at a substantially higher salary than he was making with us. And so we hated to see him go, but we are in the process of trying to fill that position. So, you know, I just remind the board that, you know, we often talk about retention, but it's a dog eat dog world. Education has become very competitive as far as resources, human capital. It's become very, very, very competitive. And so I don't know that it's always a reflection on the organization as much as it is a career opportunity for people to advance and make more money. In fact, I spoke with one person that works with us in the district, and they were sharing with me the hardship of that TRS and Social Security being taken out of their paychecks makes it, you know, a little bit difficult. And when they have that opportunity to go to the ISD and just pay TRS, I think it gives them back about, you know, a significant amount of money each pay period. So we have to keep that in mind. So, but again, it's always good if they're leaving to go to ISDs versus leaving to go to other charters. All right. And then again, I still say to you that RMA is in a unique position when it comes to teacher certification. To have almost 70% of your staff certified in a charter school is very, very impressive. I think that, you know, and I think that's a great ability or a great characteristic to have for the district, is to be able to say that over 70% of our staff, or you know, right at 70% of our staff holds a certification. And so as you can see, the average teacher experience for the district still remains at about 9 years. And it breaks down by the campus level. And so any questions? Okay, then Becky, if you'll scroll on down. And then I want to call your attention to some updates on the organization chart that we have made that I think more accurately reflects. You know, we're constantly visiting and looking at the titles of different people, and does it accurately reflect what they do? And so forever we had Mr. Showers as the CTE coordinator, which most of you all know CTE no longer exists. It's now called CCMR. And so we've made the name change in that. And so he is no longer the CTE coordinator, but he is now the CCMR coordinator, College Career Military Readiness Coordinator. And so we wanted to accurately reflect that. Also, Dr. Givens did hire a new executive administrative assistant in Houston, and that is Miss Tammy Mitchell. And so we made that change to the org chart. And then also the new special POPs registrar, we had a vacancy in that role. And so Mary Carrillo took over or will be taking over, who she was Dr. Givens' administrative assistant, but she will be transitioning to the new Special POPs registrar position that was vacant from last year. So it's not a new position, but it's a new person in the position. And then after hearing Dr. Lambert speak at the principals meetings, there was some title changes in the licensed specialist and school psychologists, the LSSPs. They're now known as, I guess, just SPs. And so the title change affects the two, Ms. Elizondo and Ms. Leith, in their roles that they serve in. And so all of that's reflected in the org chart. Any questions about that information from the board? Okay. Then the other thing that Mr. Clemens, did you want me to discuss the board meeting now, or did you want to wait until later? Mr. Clemens. Is he with us, Becky?
Yes, sir. I believe you're muted, Mr. Clemens.
Go ahead now, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. So back in June, the board requested to have their board meeting during the week of the charter school conference, an in-person meeting in which Dr. Lee, who is consulting with my evaluation, consulting the board with on my evaluation structure, would have some time to do some engagement with the board for those purposes. However, we had originally scheduled it for Wednesday, the 27th. But it started to get very costly. We were looking at somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 to stand up a board meeting on that Wednesday. And so I visited with Mr. Clemens and I proposed that we move it to that Tuesday. And if we could just start around 3:30 or 4 o'clock and start the meeting, and then Dr. Lee would be able to join us around 5:30 to do the evaluation piece that he would need to meet with the board about, because he'll also be at the Texas Charter School Conference as well. Does any of the board members object to a 3:30, 4 o'clock start on Tuesday, September the 26th for our board meeting?
Dr. White, I think you're muted.
I have no objection. Did you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have no objection.
We also can have a conference room that day at a reasonable cost, or perhaps free. Is that true?
Well, not free, but reasonable. We would pay for the room and the projector screen would be all that we're, yeah.
Okay.
Nothing's reasonable at a Hilton or Marriott.
I thought maybe I heard something earlier that the conference had a spare room they met. That's fine.
Yeah, that's TPCSA fine. was willing to do that, but the hotel doesn't allow it. So, you know. Is that correct, Becky? Did I state that properly?
Yes, just issues of logistics that's going on. TPCSA did release the room, but did not want to be held liable should there be any damages and things of that nature. And so it pretty much creates a new contract with us in the hotel.
Okay. Any other comments on that?
I don't have any objection to it, but I just wanted to confirm that that meeting time won't conflict with any of our class sessions, will it, on that Tuesday for the conference?
It would, if we start at 4, Mr. Nemec, the board would probably lose about an hour, but you would have your the full day, because I think the last session ends at 5:15. Now, I'm not opposed to starting the meeting after that time, if that's what you all prefer to. That would just make it a later meeting to, you know, it would go later. But I figured if the board, you know, if you lost an hour of training, that may not be as detrimental. would you like for it to start after the final training?
I can't speak for the whole board, but I would prefer that it start earlier rather than later that day. And I don't know if we have a calendar of events or a agenda for the classes that afternoon, but it might be worth just looking at what we would be missing.
Okay.
Mr. Nimick, so TPCSA only has like a at a glance agenda, so they don't have any specific courses yet that have been provided, but I'm always on the lookout for that, and I'll get that out. Usually they'll let us know when it's available through their app, but I will definitely reach out to everybody so that I know people are interested in what courses will be provided and what day and time.
And Dr. Lee,
great.
I know Dr. Lee is on a panel with Joe Hoffer. What is that one about, Dr. Lee? Is it a update or what's the story on that one? Because his is one that goes until 5:15.
Yeah. The session that I'll be on is panel discussion with another superintendent, an attorney regarding perspectives about governance. From, again, I also serve as a conservator and monitor for the Texas Education Agency. So different perspectives on the view of governance and how proper governance is done in charter school districts.
Okay.
Stop question, Dr. Lee. Are you eligible to do board training?
I do not have the appropriate certification for that, so I'm sorry, I do not. Okay. But if someone else did, we could tag on to their number.
Okay. Well, Mr. Nimick, I would assure you that if that 1 hour is necessary to be missed, we could figure out somebody to do that 1 hour for you if we needed to. But
can we
most of the heavy lifting will be done earlier in the day.
Can we agree to have the meeting on the Tuesday afternoon and leave the start time open right now if the schedule is played, and then see if we have any conflicts, and if there is conflict, then make a final decision whether we're going to start it as early as 3 or as late as 5:15, but and go as long as we need to. I don't anticipate it being a long meeting, but we'll be there as long as we need to be.
So. Mr. Clemens has agreed to bring his barbecue pit and put it up in the room and smoke some ribs. And
well, it's a done deal.
Well, in that case, the later the better. Let's do it.
So we've agreed to reset that meeting for the Tuesday afternoon sometime between 3 and 5. The starting time to be determined later. So what's
yes
next on the agenda, Becky? Again, I'm working at 75% of my battery on my iPad, 104 degrees outside, and my iPhone is a backup, so I'm not trying to rush y'all at all.
Oh, but you're in the building, right?
Yes, I am, and it's cool in here.
Oh, okay. You said 104 outside.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let me say this, Mr. Clemens, and we also have some people, Becky reminded me, presenting at the charter school conference too. So we'll look at how that all falls, and then we can make a final determination at the start time.
I feel sure that each year that the conference gets better late afternoon participation, but over the years I've been to actually hosted sessions at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and found myself with an empty room.
Yeah.
Somehow late in the afternoon, people get tired and happy hour starts and the shops open and there are things going on, but we'll see how it plays out, do what we need to do.
Does the board mind if once we release the schedule, we'll send it out to all the board members, and if you would just kind of respond back to your preference of start time, and then Mr. Clemens and I can take all that into consideration and just make the decision with Mr. Clemens and I. Is that okay?
Fine. Perfect.
Okay. Mr. Nimick,
yes, fine with me as well.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. All right, then let me say this, board, we welcome you to Dr. White. I'm expecting to see you there. I heard you didn't want to speak at Convocation, but we'll let you stand and wave your hand, but we hope that you join us for Convocation. And any board member that would like to send a recording, Becky has worked with you, please feel free to do that. We would love to be able to put that up on the projectors on the screen and have greetings from each of you for our staff to start.
Dr. Anderson, I thought Mr. Clemens as the president would probably do that, but if I have to speak, I would do that.
Okay, well, we'll put you on program. You're on.
Okay.
I'm going to be out of state on vacation.
I thought I saw on the news that he would be out, so if I had to be a replacement, I'll do the greetings.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. And
anyone else? I'm not sure where my dog and I'll be on that day, but we may be up in the mountains or out in the desert. I'm not real sure. So.
And Mr. Clemens, if you want to do a pre-recorded message, get with Becky, and Dr. Givens will help you, and we'll do that as well. I know Mr. Nemick and Ms. Pearson have requested that, and so please feel free to do that. Keep it to probably no more than 3 minutes if you're going to do a recorded one, a pre-recorded one.
Thank you.
Okay.
Becky, are we okay? We're up to the financial report.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Tammy.
Good afternoon. I have summarized some of the June financial information on the introductory page. The board did approve a functional amendment for the 22-23 expenses back on June the 22nd. And since that time, we have added another close to $400,000 of expenses for 22-23, most of which was our final payroll and then some other facility type expenses. And if you see later on in the presentation, we've estimated and we're still in a good position with the functional amendment. At the first chart on page 33, we're looking at the enrollment data by month over the last 3 years. And our campuses only had classes for a few days in June, but the average enrollment for June was 1,332 students. On page 34, this is our ADA for the month of June. We are at 64% attendance, which is a little lower than what we have seen all year, but this does tend to happen towards the end of the school year as we approach kind of the finish line for the school year. On the following page, this chart represents our foundation school payment revenue. This is the amount received versus the amount that we actually budgeted. At the beginning of the year, we budgeted $16.85 million, and currently with our enrollment, we are recording revenue of $14.4 million. And on page 36, this is our days cash on hand. This is calculated by breaking out annual expenses into a daily amount and then dividing that by the cash balance that we have at the end of the month. And if a charter school scores at least 60 days on this indicator, then they receive the full points for the indicator. And as you can see from this chart, we have 163 days cash on hand. Looking on the next page, this is 22-23 year-to-date revenues versus expenses. We can see through the month of June that we have $17.7 million in revenue and $17.2 million in expenses. And this is for all funds. On the following page, we have our administrative costs, which are 18.3% of instructional costs. This will provide us 6 out of 10 charter first points. We have captured the ESSER money that we have spent this year in this calculation. It has been used to determine our score, and we will get to do that again for the year coming forward until the ESSER funds expire. On page 39, we are comparing our actual ADA to what TEA has as our average from previous years. And following that, you can see the chart with our estimated charter school rating on this page. if the fiscal year, if we didn't make any changes to the fiscal year, we would score above standard with this, with these financials. In addition to those points for the administrative cost ratio, we have lost 10 points on indicator number 10 because we are not within 10% of our budgeted revenue that we submitted with our beginning of the year PEIMS reports. Just as a reminder, we budgeted enrollment of 1,950 students with an ADA of 1,443, and unfortunately, we did not meet that goal. And then our income statement appears on the next page. Our amended budget has been added to this page. As you can see, the second column. And looking at each of the functional expenses, you can see that we're still under budget for every function. We have added expenses since that amendment last month. And I feel like every day we get closer and closer to closing that out for 22-23. We are going to cut that off here in the next week so that we can start to prepare our audit reports based on the final information for 22-23. We will at that time also true up any summary of finance distributions that are out by TEA at that time. And on the next page, Rebecca, you'll see our balance sheet, excuse me, which reflects our assets and our liabilities. Our net assets is reflected at the bottom of the page, right there, 14 million. And that's because of our additional surplus this year. And lastly, for June, on the next page is our summary of finance. This is for state revenues. It is dated June the 30th. There are one or two, I think I checked today, and there are two more summary of finance distributions that have been released since this June 30th, but they haven't, there hasn't been a lot of changes to it. Are there any questions on the June financials?
Tammy, will you kindly address your our criteria for closing out the June 30th expenses? We have accrued salaries and goods and services have been received. What are our criteria on you say we're still working on closing out expenses? What are the criteria that we have for the June 30th closure?
Yeah, we have, like today, I saw some expenses for some staff that traveled in June. So those are still trickling in, some of those expenses with the June date. We did have a lot of expenses for utilities, of course, after June 22nd, that were for June. And so those were all recorded in those financials. And we had accrued for some consulting that we hadn't seen the invoices come in for, Bazaar, for instance. Those came in after that June 22nd date as well. We tried to predict, and we've done a good job at staying under where we predicted those final numbers would be. But it's just a matter of, getting everything in at this point, a week before the month ends, and getting everybody to invoice prior to that date. And as we know, for facilities and utilities, that's not going to happen. They're going to come after the fact. And so we've been maintaining, both systems. We've been maintaining the 22-23 financials as well as the 23-24 financials, depending on the dates of service for as the invoices trickle in.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Facilities update, Carl.
Good afternoon, board. This afternoon, we're going to be talking about some projects that we have going at RMA, the Amarillo Fort Worth relocations, as well as the Midland relocation. And I'll give you an update on the ESSER 3 project as well. And we'll get started with the Amarillo project. So this this project is actually moving along quite well. We've submitted for our LOI, for our letter of intent. We've signed a purchase sales agreement with the owner for, it was $950,000 for this piece of property. The board approved the resolution at the last meeting, and we have currently completed the due diligence, well, almost completed the due diligence process. We have our phase one, our equity property condition assessment, water sewer line scope inspections, asbestos pre-renovation survey, and zoning analysis reports. So we're moving ahead on this. I've spoken with Frost Bank, and Frost Bank is on board for financing both this project and the Fort Worth project. We have approvals from Ryan Bennett, who is our representative at Frost Bank, as well as their credit department. So everything is moving along well at Frost Bank with financing these projects. So go ahead, Becky. And just a reminder of the property is located at 2400 Southeast 27th Avenue in Amarillo, Texas. It's a fairly large, it's a 1.61 acre site, which is much better than what we have currently. Go ahead, Becky. It's only 4.7 miles from our existing location. And you can see on the bottom there, aerial view of what the site looks like. Going ahead. Kind of a scatter pattern of our students. Most all of our students are within 10 minutes of this location, with a few being at 15 minutes. Go ahead. And these are some photos of the interior of the building, which used to be a cosmetology school. Keep in mind that all of this will be ripped out and replaced. So we'll be doing a kind of a gut and remodel on this location. All right. And in Fort Worth, we're moving along quite well on this project as well. We have gone ahead and extended our lease from 8/31/23 to 8/31/24. So we've done that. We've have a approved letter of intent, and then that was for $2,250,000. And we're in the process of working out the purchase sales agreement with the owner. They had a few items that they were trying to salvage from the sale, and so we're working with them to get through that. And at the last board meeting, the board approved a resolution that would allow us to spend up to the $2,250,000 for this location. We have queued up the due diligence inspections. Everyone's ready to go with that. As of Monday, we have the architects and engineers will be walking both the Amarillo site as well as the Fort Worth site. They'll complete that work on Wednesday. We're just working quickly to try to get both of these projects kind of lined up so that Frost Bank can close both of them within a short period of time. So we want them both to kind of align together for that process. Go ahead, Becky. As you guys will recall, Unity Church, which is in Fort Worth, this is a 4.02 acre site, and are a combination of sites, the school being the one in the foreground and the chapel, and what we were going to be turning into administrative buildings are going to be in the background. Go ahead. So there are some notable sites that are around our building. We have a library which is right across the street, which is pretty useful for our location. And then there's the Science Academy and a couple of elementary schools and middle schools in the area. And once again, as you can see, we're looking at like 1 mile, 3 miles, and 5 miles. And interesting enough, go to the next slide. The dots on here, you can see Fort Worth is just different than any of our other locations. Our students come from all over the place. So we really feel that this location, the one where the star is going to be a good location for RMA. And our problem child, Midland, we are actually in the process of finishing this project off. We're expecting to start students here on the 15th. We're supposed to receive a temporary certificate of occupancy on the 4th. We've actually began this week. They began cleaning the site, and we have actually moved in or began moving in the new furniture for this location. That will complete tomorrow, Friday. And then next week, we will start moving boxes from our existing location to this location. We're pushing hard to try to get into here by the 15th when the students start. One of several things have come up. We passed our electrical inspection, our plumbing inspection. We still have HVAC and the fire inspection to go. We've been working with the city to mitigate some supply line chain issues that have crept up. We are still outstanding some FEMA rated doors. Those will not be in until probably the middle of September, it looks like. And so the city has allowed us to build a 2-hour wall between ourselves and the church to help mitigate that. And when the doors come in, we'll be able to take that wall down and put our doors in. There's also some electrical items that are on back order that is holding up a full COO. But we're getting very close to getting the temporary COO, and we're hoping once again to start our students there on the 15th. And you can see this is some of the classroom areas, office areas. I just put in a few pictures. I have someone on site today. They're going to be taking pictures after the cleaning this week. And you just get an idea for what the campus is looking like. We've made a lot of progress this last month, so we're happy with that. And once again, this is a floor plan layout of what the school will look like once we're in. ESSER 3 HVAC, we have finally secured a contractor for this project. The board has approved the contract, and we are working to get these guys started with all of their, well, they've already started with all of their bonding and insurance information. So this work will begin shortly. We expect this to be finished by the end of the year, 12/31. This project was scheduled to be finished by the end of last year, but there were so many delays due to HVAC components being on back order. It was thought best to postpone this until things stabilized a little bit, both price-wise and delivery-wise. And so we're at a good spot here. So we're going to be moving forward with this project now. And that's it. Any questions that I could help answer for you guys? And if not, Becky, that's my report.
Sorry, thank you, Carl. Let's move on to the next item, Carrie Ring, District Enrollment Update and Initiatives.
Good afternoon, Board of Trustees and everyone that is in attendance for the meeting. Today, I'm going to be going over our enrollment for the school year last year, just to go over where we ended at each campus. And so I will start with the onboarding system of the SOS that we used, which is the first slide. There it is. Okay, and so this is as of the end of the school year. So our last report was run 5/25 of 23. And we have our active enrolled by campus. And then our pre-enrolled numbers is the next column. And that would be the people that filled out the application and then they were loaded into WebSmart and needed a start date. And then the ones that were in SOS would mean that they were they had filled out their application and it would be completed by WebSmart. So when you total each column, that would be the total enrolled over at the end. So we ended with 1698 as our number enrolled at the end of the school year. One thing that I did want to point out briefly is we did have a challenge and initiative that was given by Dr. Anderson at the end of the year. Our pre-enrolled number, which was the number of applications that were filled out that were waiting, was rather high at the end of the school year last year. And he challenged us to see if we could not get that number down. We were in the hundreds. And Sylvia took that and really went above and beyond. And if you notice, we were at 38. So I did want to point that out and give her accolades for all that she did in order to bring that down, because that I mean, the percentage that was decreased is immeasurable. So that's something that I think is worth mentioning. Next slide, Becky. These are the marketing initiatives that we are looking at for the school year that is up and coming for 2023-24. We ordered new banners for inside and outside of each campus, promoting enrollment and a referral system for people to sign up with RMA. These banners are retractable. They're almost 7 feet in height. So they can retract them and they have a strap that comes with them, so they could take them to events, they could take them to tabling, community events that they would attend, and then set them up, and they're very lightweight. They only weigh a couple of pounds. So they can put them outside, they can put them inside. It's something that we think we can use to attract attention. As Dr. Anderson mentioned, it's our 25-year anniversary, so we'll be promoting that throughout the year. We have ordered shirts for all of the staff that promote 25 years, and we'll be giving those out at convocation. And Ms. Thompson had a great idea.
We ain't gonna be.
Pardon me?
Continue, Carrie.
Okay. Okay, so Ms. Thompson had a great idea about taking a picture of all of the staff in the 25-year shirt. So we are going to be doing that and using that for promotional purposes as well. We're going to continue with our news stories and press releases for all of our campus happenings. We'll be continuing the commercials sporadically throughout the year. Our relationship with TPSA has strengthened with our regional advocacy leaders, and we will be continuing those relationships. We have a regional advocacy leader that has been assigned to each campus, and we have a meeting scheduled for after the school year has started. And they are going to, their goal is to have a state representative visit each campus this year and to continue our Capital Connections participation. And we are going to have our Capital tour scheduled as well, so that our students are able to take a tour of the Capitol. And TPSA is going to assist in scheduling that and be a part of that tour. We'll continue with our partnerships and community leaders and businesses. We're going to increase our Chamber of Commerce involvement with each city and increase our civic awareness, and continue our social media advertising and our website promotion. And then we're looking at our alliance with either Scala or Charter School Capital for recruitment, advertising, and enrollment. And then we've really ramped up our SEL growth and training, and I've included a slide on that to go over a little bit about what we're going to do to assist them in their role. Okay, Becky, next slide. That's our logo for the 25-year anniversary. And then the banners for the inside and the outside are the two that are in the center. And then there at the bottom, you'll notice we've got our portrait of a graduate that we used. And TPSA actually selected a couple of our graduates that we focused on and had a video made by 4 of them and featured them on their website. So that these things that we're doing are gaining traction and are assisting with promoting RMA and highlighting us for the things that we're accomplishing. Okay, next slide, Becky. We are going to roll out a new training for the SELs, and we've decided to call it Excel as an SEL. We're going to go over it in a sequence of 4 sections with first impressions matter, key context for student enrollment, the importance of follow-up, and best practices for referrals. And the SELs will be focusing on fostering parent engagement. With Region 20, there's a training that they can go to online. There's also a training, parent liaisons training featured through Region 16. And then they will focus on retention, ADA, attendance, JPs, and truancies. And then if you look at the white section there, that's their ADA goals for the upcoming year. So with their percentages for each campus, it's broken down. And that's where we're going to be looking at trying to attain those this year. So we'll go over that at convocation. Next slide, Becky. And then this is my final slide. And this is our data based on SOS enrollment totals as of 5/25 of 23. And this is before graduation. So we had a total enrollment of 3,006. And for the entire school year, with our ending total, as we showed earlier, at 1,698. So that would leave us with a loss of 1,308, which was less than the year before. So I just wanted to give you some of those numbers and give you the data for what we were looking at starting this year. And then if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you. If not, that is all that I have.
I would just chime in, Ms. Ring, thank you for all of the work that your department does. And I think these initiatives that you have are important, and I think that they will help us. You know, obviously, the more butts and seats we get, the more money we have. And so I can't, emphasize how important your role is. And I appreciate all the work that you're doing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Mr. Nimick.
Any other comments? Thank you, Ms. Ring. Next on the agenda, Becky. District climate survey results.
Yes, sir.
Is Dr. Bourgeois with us?
I'm with you. I'm right here, and thank you for the introduction. I'm Steve Bourgeois. I'm the founder and CEO of AHEART Solutions. I've spoke with many of you a year ago, so this is year 2 during doing work with RMA. Congratulations on the 25 years, and thank you to the board members, to Dr. Anderson and people on the call today. I'm going to share screens, and I think I need, there we go, it will work, and give you a high level of reporting. The board members already have the complete summative report, so this is a shortened version of it. We're going to be talking briefly about the research design, and then we have 3 separate sections: staff, parent, and student. And just note that I'm going to really focus on the quantitative, the scaled items now, but pay close attention to the comments, and that's in the full version of this. The purpose here has to do with a lot of things, but particularly the timing of strategic planning. So we hope and expect that the data here will inform the work on strategic planning and continuous improvement. Response rate was in some cases better, in some cases not. So if you look to the left, you can see it did improve by staff at 57%. Dropped slightly for students, and that's an area of improvement. And then a big jump for parent participation. And that's really important to have a representative sample. On the staff survey, participation is important because you need to know if you can generalize the findings. We like to have at least 10 so that we can make claims about campus level, but these are still a little bit low. So consider a bit of an asterisk on campus level findings for the staff survey. Here's a comparison with 2022 and 2023. Many of the staff items were similar, so I wanted to do a comparison. And you can see that these items on school culture are stable across years. But you see some areas that are relatively low, particularly student kindness and disruptive student behavior. Many of these analyses include heat maps, and that's what this is. So if you look at the dark blue, that's a high score, and then the light is a low score. So on school culture, just for 2022, I wanted to draw differences by campus, and you can see that there are some big differences across the campuses. On this item, you can see the high scores on average would be from Midland and then lower from Fort Worth. But for each item, there's really great data here to look at differences by campus. Collective efficacy is very important. It's the highest influence on student achievement, and it has to do with the whole faculty, not just the teaching staff. And these numbers, for the most part, are very good. And I study this as my research area, and I also have a lot of clients that look at this because it's such a driver of achievement. And you have some pretty high numbers, and I think it reflects that you have relatively small staff per campus, and they do collaborate by nature, and a lot of this has to do with that. Leadership, the type of leadership that we're looking at is autonomy supportive, which again is a predictor of student achievement. And as you look, you can see some differences by campuses with some very high. This was 100% and low. 100% means that's the percentage of 4s and 5s on a 5-point scale. So with the heat map, take a look at differences, but you have some really high scores here, and then a couple campuses that get a bit lower. Job satisfaction, it was on this agenda talking about retaining teachers. And so here's what the teachers had to say by campus. And I think items that are important on job satisfaction, all of these are really proxies for the quality of the environment. But you're going to notice that pay is always going to be low. And these are about what I get across any school survey. Nobody's satisfied, but they don't leave necessarily because of pay. That's one factor, but all of these others are factors as well, including school leadership. So satisfaction working, and now this is across campus, just this was a separate item, and you can see that 76% indicating being satisfied, and then you have some campus level differences. And then this item was followed up by qualitative data, and so that's when you look in the summative report to see what they had to say, those particularly who were not satisfied. This is visualized in orange to red because actually a low color is good here. And the question was, have you considered leaving your position recently? And you can see that you do have some campuses where that's very high. I think that's the climate across schools in general. Teachers are thinking about that. And Dr. Anderson mentioned that there's competition across organizations for faculty, and charter school faculty can get a nice raise if they go to the other district in the neighborhood. And so these numbers are still, I guess the thing you should look at is the difference by campus, because that is a good look at the school culture as well. We did some Net Promoter Score a year ago, and I like to do it because it really draws out differences. And the analysis is 0 through 6 is considered a detractor. Passives are in the middle. And then these are people, the promoters, who would actively advocate for the school. With respect to staff members, this is actually called an ENPS, meaning employee. The question is, how likely would you recommend RMA as a place to work? And the big takeaway here is that overall, I do this with school staff all the time. My average is about plus 15. And you can see that you have big differences by campus. Some are above our average, but then some are dramatically low. So you want to uncover that by looking at this entire survey, looking at the qualitative comments. But these are worth some attention because there's such dramatic differences by campus. Recommendations, and these come from the scale, but also from the open-ended. I have recommendations on school culture. That seems to be an area of need for training, leadership development, the type of leadership, more autonomy, supportive leadership, particularly schools that are low in that area. You've addressed attrition with retention bonuses. I think that's admirable, and it's a good use of funds for sure. And I think looking at differences across campuses is important too. And then the Net Promoter Scores I just mentioned, but there's some pretty profound differences school to school. Parent survey, similar analysis. Notice the numbers are pretty high by campus. The ones that participated, those are good numbers. And I did some comparison because once again, we had some similar items from a year ago. And you see 2022 on the left and the most recent 2023 on the right. And this is from the spring. So you see relatively fewer parents indicated higher education as a goal in 2023. Right now it's 66%. That's the biggest difference there. Interaction with staff, relatively more parents indicated their child was self-taught in 2023, and you can see that's the yellow. And then we have areas for improvement, and the highest ones you can see here was academic, and now it's communication. And so that makes us want to know what's happening with communication at the campus level. What are the differences? Recommendations for implication. These are really suggestions by parents. In 2023, relatively more parents recommended implementation of extracurricular options than in 2022. So that's the biggest difference. A lot of these are quite similar. The advantages of RMA in 2023. We talked about advantages of a small class size. That's less of an advantage, but then accelerated learning became the highest. So that's a big change in the perceptions of parents. And I think that in 2023, we have so many more parents in the survey that I would trust the numbers on the right a lot more than the numbers on the left, just because of sample size. Parents commented on principal leadership, and you can see on the left the things that we looked at. Once again, there are some pretty dramatic differences by campus. You can see we have a campus listed low and high, and really everything in between there. So there's a lot of variability on these items. Facilities. once again, school level differences in parent perceptions across these schools. The relatively lowest item, low score was on Caroline efficiency, but again, you have some pretty high scores there as well. And in general, some of these scores are quite high for facilities, particularly for charter schools. Parents commented on school culture. Once again, you can see the differences by campus. The items that had high scores would be respect for diversity and also lack of bullying. So these are very high. We tend to get much lower scores across these items. Parental involvement. I think this is the type of item that could inform strategic planning. We have attending events, meeting times, and knowing that the teachers, this is an area of improvement really across campuses in these three areas of parental involvement. Overall satisfaction, you can see that this is consistent across campuses. And this is one of the few sets of questions where there really aren't major campus level differences. And these are relatively high scores. Here's the Net Promoter Score, but now we have staff or parents talking about if they'd recommend the school to their friends and family. For AHEART Solutions, the average is +14. And the way this is calculated is that you take the promoters and you subtract the detractors and you get a number. And so this is a visualization. There's some differences, but you have some that are quite a bit above our average and then some below. But by and large, these are very positive. Recommendations include classroom instruction, particularly, and we had this finding a year ago too about reliance on digital platforms. More visibility for school leadership, streamlined communications, parental involvement, and I mentioned that was relatively low. School safety, really help parents better understand these concerns. And then the mentioning of bullying and substance abuse, that didn't come from the scaled surveys, but that came from the open-ended comments. Finally, the student survey. You see that the numbers are inconsistent by campus. And I made a note here that we really can't do campus level analysis if they don't all have 10 or more. So for the most part, you're going to see across these participants, what are the results? There's one comparison by gender because you can see those are above the minimum of 10 cases. We have school culture in 2022 and 2023. And so we have lower scores than the previous year. But once again, we're dealing with pretty low numbers in these years as far as participation. But there are drops across all of these for school culture. Sense of belonging, I like this item. It really tells a lot about the staff, and this is high. It's actually one of the highest that we've looked at, and we use this for hundreds and hundreds of schools. So that's a good number. And then we have the highest about respectful staff members, and then lowest on feeling connected to other students. And so these are areas for improvement, but also some exemplary items. We wanted to find out why students are absent. And so here's what they indicated. They had really the other category was bigger than these. A lot of people had other things to say, but as far as what we gave them, bored, bullied were the highest too. But again, taking into account the small sample size here. And then here are just some open-ended comments about what students are getting at RMA that they didn't get at their previous school. So these are really helpful. Feel free to use these for marketing because there's some very nice statements about the schools and what they're doing for students. I think we have another page as well. One-on-one time, hands-on learning, graduate early. So all of these are aligning with your mission. if students are having a bad day, do they get the support they need? So we had a lot of students talk about this, again, about your staff members who care, and very important for the model that you have, of course. The Student Assistance Program, I think this tells you that a lot of the students weren't aware of it, or they have not participated. And so that'll be part of our recommendations. Only 10% from the people who took the survey participated. And then this is just a word cloud about the overall environment. Students did a Net Promoter Score, and I went ahead and did a comparison from year to year. So 2022 on the top, 2023, and then you're taking the promoter and subtracting the detractors. And so you can see there is a drop. And so we need to uncover that. I wish we had larger response rate from students, but there is a drop. For high schools, maybe not surprisingly, students tend to be in the 0 through 6 category. And so our average is -25. So I thought you should know that for context, that this -32 is kind of in the ballpark for high school students. And then we did a breakdown by gender, and this is an update. So I'm going to resend the summative report because there was one table that we had to redo here. But notice that there is the -27 is actually higher than the males. And so that there might be something to consider about the overall satisfaction of females being higher than males at RMA. Recommendations, once again, school culture, particularly in light of the year-to-year drop in these perceptions from students, sense of belonging is something that you are intervening already. The Student Assistance Program, if you are continuing it needs to probably be more present so students know about it. And then the Net Promoter Score, potentially there's some difference between females and males, so it's worth future research. The next steps, we're signed up to replicate this in late September. I think that's a good time of the school year, and there's enough time from spring until now. Same items, so we'll be looking at fall to spring change, and hopefully get to report to you again. But really take steps, and I can help you with this to increase response rate across all of the groups, and that'll give a lot better data. And thanks to those listed here who helped out with the data collection, and this is my team, so I appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Dr. Bourgeois.
Comments, questions? Dr. Bourgeois, last time, I appreciate your presentation. I think it's very interesting. Look forward to the next one.
All right, my pleasure.
I wish we would get higher participation. I'm not sure how we do that, but anything we can do on our end, let us know. And we'll...
Sure will. I'll make that available, that information.
One of the things I do think that we should have done, and Dr. Bourgeois, I don't know that it was require a certain period to take their students into the lab to do the survey. Did we do that this time?
I think it was hit or miss, I think, but that's the best practice for sure.
So we will fine tune that.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you, Becky.
Yes, sir. We're ready for the action items.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Did you need my assistance, Mr. Clemens, with the?
Yes.
Okay,
I do
yes,
not,
sir. Okay.
Need the screen, please.
Okay, yes, sir. I am showing my screen. Can everybody see it okay?
I don't.
No, we don't see it.
Oh, that's the issue. Okay. Okay, I do apologize. Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Action item adoption of the 23-26 RMA District Strategic Plan. Carrie Hughes, Director of Organized Strategic Initiatives and Culture with Yes Preps Go.
Hi, how's everyone doing today? I am Kiara Hughes. Apologize for my stuffy nose. I'm kind of waiting for my Zyrtec to kick in, but Becky, you can scroll on down to the first page. So the objectives for the time today, so you can go on to the next page. I want to start with a recap of the guiding principles that grounded the strategic plan development, just to reshare how we got here. I'm going to share the drafted initiatives and proposed metrics. And then I'm also going to discuss the role of the board of the directors in the governance of the strategic plan. And so when we talk about the guiding principles, one, we wanted it to be rooted in data, both as an input and as an output. So making sure that every part of the strategic plan was measurable. The second piece was around organizational readiness. We wanted to make sure that everything we proposed, RMA was ready to implement, but that also meant that for some initiatives, we needed to take a phased approach. You'll notice this when we get to some of the metrics, that many of the metrics will not have an actual measure to be measured next year, because we actually expect that it will take a year or two for the initiative to get going before we move above the baseline. And then lastly, we wanted the strategic plan to be focused on big rocks. And what I mean by that is like the most impactful work. So instead of a very task-driven strategic plan, we wanted high level, high impact initiatives that would truly move the needle for students, staff, and your stakeholders. And so there are five priorities and 10 initiatives. The first priority is the post-graduation outcomes. Strategic plan should be centered on the people you serve, which is the students. And so part of this is by 2026, all RMA students will graduate as college, career, and or military ready as defined by TA. And the strategic initiatives that underscore this are performance incentives. So as we increase the number of students that actually participate, giving them an incentive, and also the schools an incentive for them to participate in programs that will make them college, career, military ready. Secondly, expanding the programs and expanding the number of partnerships. So RMA has already started this work. This is a continuation of the work, continuation of the Texas Bridge work, a continuation of the partnerships with career partners, so that students, when they graduate, have clear pathways for what they would do after they leave RMA. The second priority is around school leadership success. And part of that is equipping our leaders for success and building a culture of success with our principles at the core. So one of the things Dr. Bourgeois mentioned that you'll see here is around leadership development. And that is by 2026, RMA will increase the average tenure of an RMA principal by 1.5 years. And so we know from research and data that the longer a principal is in a seat, the more effective they are. And so the way we are planning to do this is twofold: career pathways and retention. So can you see yourself in the role? Is there room for growth? And is there a succession plan aligned to that? Lastly is leadership development, and that will look like specialized and tailored leadership development for each of the principals so that they're continually growing in the role, and so that they are not only growing, but learning and enjoying the role as well. Teacher recruitment and retention, also a hotspot that Dr. Bourgeois mentioned that we've also discussed. And so part of this is also around culture driving commitment. And so by 2026, RMA will increase the average teacher tenure to at least 2 years. And so ideally it would be more than 2 years. There are places and campuses where 2 years is like the minimum, but across all RMA, the average teacher tenure will be at least 2 years. And so 2 basic measures: retaining the people you have, and also aligned recruitment. So recruiting people who are values aligned, who understand the RMA culture, who understand the RMA system, and who are committed to staying at RMA for 2 years. The fourth priority is around risk mitigation. The charter landscape is getting harder and harder and harder. And so we know that for RMA to continue another 25 years, we have to shore up where that we have risk. And usually that risk is centered in budget and safety metrics. And so part of this is in both the budget development, so thinking around cash on hand, our charter first metrics, things of that nature, and also making sure safety and security is a priority and a value. As we know from the last legislative cycle, safety and security is very much a priority, and it is going to continue to be a priority for the next foreseeable future. And the last priority is around establishing the RMA Education Foundation. And so by 2026, establishing a district education foundation, and the $100,000 is sort of a placeholder. I think once the foundation gets up and running, you'll have a better sense of what the district will be. But the idea is by 2026, the foundation is running. It is providing you another pathway to be able to secure resources, to be able to have a longer runway and a longer thoughts about longevity. And so the last piece I want to talk through is around the role of the board. And so part of the role of the board has always been the external perspective and landscape analysis. And then the piece for the strategic plan is around this governance and accountability piece. And so I've provided the RMA staff with 2 tools. You can scroll down, Becky. So 2 tools. On the left, you'll see a dashboard that's focused on organizational health, the strategic relevance, direction, and institutional results. This dashboard will be used throughout the 3 years for the board to track the metrics at the end of the year. And so it is also already conditionally formatted, and it can be used in any evaluation setting for executives, for the executive team. And on the right side is the management piece. And so underneath each of these initiatives are milestones. And so the executive team will meet quarterly to discuss the milestones to make sure they're on track before it actually ends up in the dashboard. And so on the next slide, you can see a larger picture of what the dashboard will look like. And so you can see some of the things we've discussed and Dr. Bourgeois also discussed, which is like an average net promoter score, the number of sites with post-secondary partnerships, the number of days of cash on hand. So all of this will roll up into the dashboard so that you have a comprehensive view of the health of the organization through the lens of the strategic plan. And so next steps are incorporate any feedback you have from today's session into the strategic plan. I will be providing additional support to the executive team to launch the strategic plan. And lastly, I will be developing an additional deliverable. You can see an example on the right, but it'll be a booklet that provides more information to staff about what is coming for the 23 to 2026 school years. Thank you.
Ms. Hughes, your report was very well received. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson.
Any other comments, questions? This is an action item, so do we have a motion that we accept this strategic plan as presented?
I'll make the motion. I move, Francis White, I move the adoption of district strategic plan and begin its implementation for school year 2023 through 2026.
And Donald Mimick, I will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Vote. Robert Clemens, President. Yes. Mr. Nemick.
I vote yes.
Francis White, yes. Francis White, yes.
Ms. Thompson.
She's on mute.
Rose Thompson, yes.
Motion carries. The presentation has been approved as presented. Next item, Becky.
Yes, sir. It'll be the board approval and ratification of district contracts by Dr. Anderson.
All right. Then, as has become customary, we have presented the board in the board book a list of contracts that we are asking the board to ratify that fell under the $49,999 threshold. And so we have several here. We have the eTherapy contract, which is our special education services. They do a lot of our testing and things of that nature, and counseling for our students with disabilities. We also have the Bazaar contract, and then which was in $204,000, which we have not yet signed, but we're waiting for the board to approve that, as well as the SPED tracker renewal for $4,430. What else do we have, Becky? There's some more.
Yes, sir. Let me go to the page with the ones that need to be ratified. Oh, sorry, that's not it.
Yes. I'm just going to go through.
Okay, sorry. Give me 1 second. Sorry, my page numbers were not correct.
As you can see, all of the contracts are there.
Yes, and 40. Okay, sorry, here we go. Okay, Dr. Anderson, this is the list of those that need to be ratified by the board.
Yes, and so we're asking for approval for the others, and then ratification for the FP Mailing Solutions contract, which is a 36-month contract. We've moved away from Pitney Bowes, and we're moving to FP Mailing, which is in conjunction with Xerox, who we have the copier set up with as well. So, and then as you can see there, the Xerox color printer machine needs for $50 each, and that's for 25 months that we would be doing that, as well as the Wyndham Garden San Antonio for leadership training for our principals and DICs, which will be held in San Antonio. And what else? Is that it, Becky?
That's it, sir. We just had 3 contracts to be approved and then 3 to be ratified. And then the Xerox machine is actually specific to Miss Ream. For marketing needs that she needs. It's a color copier.
Yes. Yeah. So it would be for the printing material for that. Hopefully, we'll be able to soon shift to Pasadena for our printing needs and more so than anything. But for now, that's all that we have. We ask that you approve the 3 on the previous page, the 3 on this page to ratify, as they have already been signed and approved by me, and we just need the board to confer that. Any questions about
Donald Nemick? No questions here. I would move to the board to approve the contracts as listed in Exhibit 1 and ratify the contracts listed under Exhibit 2.
Francis White, I'll second that motion.
I have a motion, second. We approve the contracts as presented. Robert Clemens, yes. Mr. Nemick?
Donald Nemick, yes.
Dr. White?
Francis White, yes.
Mrs. Pearson?
She's not here. She's not present, is she?
Miss Pearson wasn't able to make the meeting today, Mr. Clemens.
I'm sorry?
Ms. Pearson is not.
Mrs. Thompson, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mrs. Thompson?
Rose Thompson, yes.
Motion carried. Next item.
Good afternoon.
Christina, HR coordinator, approval of 23-24 pay scale for executive administrative assistant superintendent. Would you sort of explain that to us?
Yeah, so we're proposing to separate and revise the executive administrative assistant pay scale to better align with the rates, with the supervisor expectations for the current job responsibilities. So the first part of that would be, instead of having just an executive administrative assistant scale, we would break that out. So we would have one scale for executive administrative assistant to the executive team. So like, for example, we currently have an executive administrative assistant to the executive director of academics. And then we would also have executive administrative assistant to the superintendent. Once those are separated, the next step that we'd like to see is to make a change to the scale. So for the executive team members, the proposal is to leave the scale where it is. And then for the assistant to the superintendent, we're proposing an increase to that scale. Becky, if you want to go to the next page, it'll show the differences there.
And let me also say too, in that the pay for the executive assistant to the soup was actually once a little bit higher, and then it was lowered, and having posted the position, you know, the executive assistant to the superintendent often serves the board as well. So it's not just the fact that they're serving only the superintendent, but they're having to do the travel for the board, prepare with policies and agenda meeting, the minutes for the agendas, all of those things come into play. And so that doesn't fall under the other realm of the executive administrative assistants. And so that's why I've asked Christina to do some research and look at other schools. And so when she did her work, she found the high end and the low end, and we took the two and came up with an average of where we felt would be appropriate.
And then lastly, this, regardless of the changes, the staff who are on the scale would follow the same rules as every other staff member in regards to increases or changes, things like that.
I have a question. Is the midpoint, Dr. Anderson, what's being recommended?
No, it's a min max. So based on experience, Dr. White, the minimum starting salary would be the $48,500, and based on experience from there, the more experienced they are, they could max out at the $60,000.
Okay, but it's based on experience.
Yes.
Okay.
All of our scales are the mid max. Mm-hmm.
So is this creating a new position?
No. This is currently, this was basically Becky's position is what this would be relative to. It's not a new position. It's just adjusting the scales to reflect more accurately the work that the executive assistant to the superintendent and the board does. Questions for Christina or
I just wanted to follow with that question to clarify. These are not new positions. We do currently have these positions, and we're just going to more clearly identify them individually by their titles instead of as a group.
Okay, this we're looking at right now, the proposed executive administrative assistant to the executive team. Who is that presently? In the next line, administrative assistant to the superintendent. Who is that presently?
So for the executive administrative team member the executive administrative assistant to an executive team member would be currently Mary Carrillo, which will be Tammy Mitchell as we move into the new school year. And then currently for the superintendent, it's Becky. And that position is still vacant as we go into this new school year.
And all these will be vetted according to experience. Is that what was said?
Correct.
Yeah, we will follow the same requirements as we do with any other pay scale, any mid, max. It's all based on your experience. Christina has a calculation that she uses to come up with that based on experience.
Thank you.
We have a motion.
Donald Nemick, I move to approve the 2023-2024 Executive Administrative Assistant pay scales as presented and allow the superintendent or his designee to make necessary changes.
Francis White, I'll second that motion.
We have a motion, second. Vote, Ms. Thompson.
I'm just looking at this.
Okay.
We just voted on the scale, and I don't know what the necessary changes would have to be from what was presented. Is that?
Meaning to just put it in the, and Christine, you correct me wrong, but to put it in the book and make it published and everything is all that we're doing, is changing that the pay scale, correct?
Right. There would be no major changes. It would be mostly little things like the way it's laid out. And if there was ever any sort of like small move, then that would be through there. But anything that would require us to greatly change the scale or right or massively change the way we administer it would come back to you guys.
And this is in every time we bring a pay scale, the same language.
Rose Thompson, yes.
Dr. White.
Francis White, yes.
Mr. Nemick.
And Donald Nemick, yes.
Robert Clemens, yes. Motion carried as presented.
Thank you.
Next item. The adoption of proposed student parent handbook and code of conduct. Dr. Gibbons.
Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
All right. Okay, we are proposing that we keep the same handbook from last year because the law firm has informed us that the updates are not ready yet to be adopted by the board. So our proposition is that we keep the handbook from last year, from the 22-23 school year. And once those updates are provided, we then have presented to the board for an update. And that would be both for the student code of conduct and the student parent handbook.
And it's not so much the attorney, but it's TPCSA hasn't done their release in conjunction with Joe Hoffer.
Questions, comments?
And we did this last year the same way. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Gibbons, but we did the same thing last year. This is a placeholder until we get the revised student code of conduct and handbook from TPCSA.
And then we'll present the full presentation. Any questions?
Entertain a motion that we approve this.
Rose Thompson, I move that the board adopt the previous student parent handbook and the student code of conduct for the 2023-24 school year.
Francis White, I'll second the motion.
We have a motion, second. Vote, Mr. Nemick.
Donald Nemick, yes.
Dr. White.
Francis White, yes.
Ms. Thompson.
Rose Thompson, yes.
Robert Clemens, yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you'll have to, Carl, you're up on the updated.
Okay, yes, sir. Action item 5E. The adoption of updated policy groups 3.14 for medical treatment and 3.15 administering medication for the RMA Texas Board Policy Series Module 3 for students. And this is going to be regarding the administration of Narcan.
And so I'm going to just give you guys a little background. Due to the increase in the number of overdoses on campuses as related to the fentanyl epidemic that's going throughout the country at the moment. At the last legislative session, there were changes that now allows, or I guess previously, school nurses were in charge of administering Narcan in the case of overdoses, and the legislative changes now allow principals or campus staff to do that. So after receiving a council advisory from our legal services, we decided to go ahead and make the changes. We've actually received the Narcan that would be posted on the campuses, where we've trained staff to our administrative staff who will train the principals on the delivery of Narcan, and we will be doing that at the convocation. And so we are prepared here at RMA to now administer Narcan on our campuses. And, you know, it's one of those things, I'm sorry we have to do this, but here we are. So under recommendation, Becky, can you go down just a little bit? So the recommendation is that the board adoption of the updated 3.14 and 3.15 policy groups that relate to the administration of Narcan. And if you have any questions, either myself or I have Mary Lou and Amy on today that can help answer those questions.
Questions, comments? Can you entertain a motion?
Just a quick question, Carl. These consent forms, when will these be presented to parents to sign? Like, what will be the procedure as far as that's concerned?
Our goal is to add those to the enrollment packet. And so it would be part of the enrollment process.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, comments?
Donald Nimick, I'll make the motion. I move that the board approve the updates to policy groups 3.14 and 3.15 and incorporate them into the Module 3 board policy manual for students.
Rose Thompson, second.
We have a motion, second. Vote, Ms. Thompson.
Rose Thompson, yes.
Dr. White.
Francis White, yes.
Robert Clemens, yes. Mr. Nimick.
Donald Nimick, yes.
Motion carries.
And so that leads to, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was just catching up. We're back to Carl again. Thank you.
Yes. So item, or the next item is that we would consider a possible action to select an architect/engineer for the Amarillo renovation project based on their demonstrated competences and qualifications, and possible delegation of authority to the superintendent's designee to negotiate an agreement. And so in order to keep our Amarillo projects and our Fort Worth projects moving forward, I'm asking the board to designate, or we will add a task to Marmon Mock to perform due diligence duties on walkthroughs on the existing properties to make sure that they're suitable for putting a school in these locations. we had selected Marmon Mock as our architects through the 2024 school year. And so we would just be assigning a task here for them to begin work on the Amarillo project. And this work would commence on Monday when they would go out to the campus to begin doing the due diligence walkthroughs. So my recommendation is that the administration recommends that the board approve the request for architectural and engineering services for architect Marmon Mock Inc. And authorize the superintendent to execute the request.
Comments, questions?
Reasonable fee. Do you already have a ballpark of what we're looking at?
So in the past, due diligence from the architect and engineers runs about $20,000.
So would you say not to exceed $25,000 or $30,000? What would be your max?
I would probably, I'm not sure. The way it normally works is we assign them the task, and then the superintendent and myself would negotiate the actual work. So for Amarillo, I would expect it not to exceed $30,000 for sure. Fort Worth is a larger building with, you know, more water lines and sewer lines, so it might be, you know, somewhere's around that same amount. So here on Article 4, the numbers that we have that we've been looking at are around $23,600.
So, but it won't, like I say, you know, if it exceeded what my signing capabilities are, then we would bring it back to the board.
Definitely.
So this
is where we're at right now. And as you can see, this includes the architect, civil engineers, landscape architects, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Each one of those disciplines will give an evaluation of the site.
I just wanted to have a ballpark figure in mind.
Yeah, 23,600 is where we're at the moment for Amarillo.
Okay, thank you.
And Carl, these are two separate action items for Amarillo and Fort Worth.
Correct.
Could we make one motion for the two since you covered both this time?
That would be fine by me.
I'll go ahead and do so then. I move that the board select Marmon Mock as the architect for the Amarillo and the Fort Worth renovation projects based on their demonstrated competence and qualifications, and further delegate authority to the superintendent or is designated to negotiate an agreement for a reasonable fee in a task request form approved by legal counsel. But if an agreement cannot be reached for a reasonable fee, then the superintendent or his designee may rank and select other architects, engineers based on this demonstrated competence and qualifications and negotiate an agreement for a reasonable fee in a form approved by legal counsel for the board to consider at a future board meeting.
Francis White, I'll second that motion.
Let them take care of that.
Afraid we might have lost Mr. Clemens.
Mr. Clemens, are you still with us?
Becky, somebody's microphone is not muted and they're having a conversation.
Okay, yes, sir, we took care of it.
Okay.
But I do think Mr. Clemens might be having some issues because I saw him log back in. I'm going to give him a call here in a second.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. He's having a little bit of a technical difficulty, but he'll be with us shortly. Should we pause the recording? Yes, thank you.
I'm back on my cell phone. My iPad ran out of power. So,
okay, Mr. Clemens, while you were away, we did have a motion and a second on these two action items.
Yes, I heard them. I think I'm up to date. I'm still not sure why we're getting feedback. Okay, let's try again.
There you go.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, sir, Mr. Clemens. Thank you. So we're at the point of roll call vote.
Okay, vote. Ms. Thompson?
Rose Thompson, yes.
Dr. White?
Francis White, yes.
Mr. Nemick?
Donald Nemick, yes.
Robert Clemens, yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, board.
Thank you, Carl.
So we're ready now to go into executive session to force the meeting be closed to all but essential as deemed necessary by the Board of Trustees, Texas Code, whatever personnel matters, deliberation. I on my cell phone, my glasses, I can't read this, so y'all are gonna have to read it. And anyway, we will move into executive session with Dr. Anderson, Dr. Lee, and the board, please. Becky, let us know what to do.
Yes, sir. Everybody should have received an email, a message from the host that you're able to join closed session at this time.
Okay, we are returning from executive session. Call the meeting back to order at 4:42 p.m. We have a action item, Mr. Nemick.
Yes, I move to authorize the superintendent to negotiate salaries not to exceed 10% to staff hard to fill positions for the 2023-2024 academic year.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion, a second. Robert Clemens, I vote yes. Donald Nemick?
Donald Nemick votes yes.
Dr. White?
Francis White, yes.
Mrs. Thompson?
Rose Thompson, yes.
Motion carries. If there aren't any other questions, I declare this meeting adjourned, and we'll see y'all either in a committee meeting or September 26th, perhaps.
Yes. All right. Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
leaving the meeting.